Hi, everybody. AI, or LLMs, to be more specific, they're ubiquitous right now. Something that's constantly in the news, constantly on people's mind. The question is it really such a big deal, or is it hype? I'd like to suggest that it's a little bit of both. There's definitely reality there, but there is definitely hype. And to talk about, to give a little bit more nuance into the hype, I'm going to draw a little diagram. This is something commonly referred to in tech, and it's something called the Gartner hype cycle. And so when a technology is new, the amount of buzz or the talk or news about it ramps up. You hear more and more and more about it until at some point it hits some kind of a peak, and then it drops down. And now, oh, that tech, it's old news. We don't care about it anymore. Eventually, people start to find useful ways to make that technology do something productive for them. And so in the language of the hype cycle, it reaches what's called the plateau of productivity. And then beyond that point, the amount of hype around that technology remains constant. The question is, for LLMs, where are we on the hype cycle? Maybe we're here. We're probably not here, right? We're not getting less and less hype about LLMs right now. Maybe we're here. Maybe we're at that moment of peak hype, and we're just not going to hear. People are going to start getting disillusioned with it. People are going to say, I don't want to hear about that stuff anymore. It's hard to say. I do think that we've seen expectations that didn't go fulfilled. The recent release of OpenAI's frontier model, GPT-5, was accompanied with a lot of hype. They possibly inflated the expectations for that. For example, they said that GPT-5 was a solid step in the direction of AGI, or artificial general intelligence. In other words, a large language model, in their definition of AGI, was a large language model that could do most or all of the economically productive things that humans do. Almost no one thinks that it's anywhere close to that. It's not able to schedule a meeting. It's not able to make sense of your email, do even the most basic tasks that humans do all the time. Nevertheless, it's incredibly useful. I use it every day. And what do I use it for every day? I use it for writing code, because that's really what the AI companies have focused on making it good at. The reason they've probably done that is because it's a very defined problem. It's something that you can create metrics around. You can figure out whether it actually was successful at doing the thing or not, and you can test it. You get results that you can analyze and say, like, yes, this did the thing, or no, this did not do the thing. Not only that, there's a lot of money to be made in having AI write code. So every major AI model is pretty good at writing code. As I said, I use it every day. In this case, I think everybody could benefit from using it because it's cheap, it's easy, and there's a lot of value that can come out of it. So I'd like to introduce an idea that everybody can pursue in order to find some ways to make these tools more useful to us. The phrase that I'd like to introduce is vibe coding. Vibe coding was something that was introduced to the world by AI researcher Andrew Karpathy, who said that he's been vibe coding that he just lets the LLM do what it's going to do. He always just clicks accept, accepts the code that he writes. He doesn't even look at the code. He just refines the prompt until he gets the thing that he wants. It became a bit of a cliche. And if I were trying to learn something, it's not what I would do at all. I wouldn't vibe code. I would make sure that I struggled in order to learn. But I was able to vibe code some stuff and get a useful tool out of an LLM with very little work. For this Toastmasters club, I wanted to replace the timer that we were using for doing contests, for figuring out the order of contestants in contests, because the one that we were using was larded up with ads and it was super slow. So I said, I'm going to make one, I'm going to put it on my website, it's going to be really fast, and then I said, but I'm not going to write the code myself. I'm going to have AI write the code for me. So I did what Andrew Karpathy did. I didn't look at the code, I just looked at the results. I tried it out. First I had, at the time the Frontier model was a variant of GPT-4. I had that work on it for a while. And then I said, like, okay, I don't want to put this on my website just without like having anyone check it. So I'm just going to have Claude check it. And then Claude started refining it and making it even better than it had been before. Eventually, I got to the point where I had this lovely little spinner tool. Hang on just a minute. Here it is. You can use it and you can put the names in and you have it spin around and it chooses the order in which the names occur. And that was entirely vibe coded. I didn't write any of the code. I think that this is an incredible boon to people. We all have tasks that we want to get done that we don't necessarily know how to do, and now we can have AI for an incredibly low price. I'm not selling anything. For an incredibly low price of having a model, either nothing, you could probably do it with a free plan, or paying for a premium plan if you think like, oh, I want to keep doing this more and more. And you can get these tools that just solve whatever problem it is that you have. We should be living in this renaissance of little tools. I think we can get there just by vibe coding. Thank you. And now I'm gonna.
Maddie, John had requested an additional 5 to 7 minutes for Q&A.
Right. So I wanted to open this up to questions for the participants in tonight's meeting, members and guests. Wanted to just find out if anyone had some questions about this idea of vibe coding, if they had thoughts on the effective use of LLMs and how you could use it more and use it to solve your problems. Yes, Alex.
Thanks for the speech, John. That was great. My question is, you mentioned that the companies have focused on making the LLMs good at code because it's more measurable and sort of defined.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to hear from you if you used it for a use case where it wasn't so effective.
They are very good at coding. I think they are to some extent plagued by the same sorts of problems that they're plagued by in everything else. So if you use an LLM for writing, it will do hallucinations. It will have what are called hallucinations, where it will make a mistake, and then it will maybe double down on the mistake. It just sort of, it doesn't live in reality. So it just has this problem with truth. And the same thing will happen with code from time to time. You can either prompt around it, you can start over again. One of the things that people maybe underestimate is the fact that it's so easy to just start over from the beginning and just, it's almost like you're just rolling over again and just seeing, okay, do I get the right answer this time? So yes, it does make mistakes, but those mistakes are something that can be worked around.
John?
Yes, Richard.
You talked about AI as a boon to technology. But what about areas outside of technology? What about helping us solve social problems, medical problems, political problems? Any insights there?
I think when you're talking about ideas, you should regard anything that you get from an LLM as a hypothesis and not as the truth. Because it's not reliable, right? It's not connecting to reality in the way that humans connect to reality. So you asked about social problems, you asked about medical problems, political problems. I would isolate medical problems specifically from everything else there, because at least OpenAI has specifically tried to make their most recent models good at asking medical questions. So if you ask it, I've got this pain in my shoulder, it feels like this, give it some details about that, it's probably going to give you answers that are better than those that Google can give you. Now, on social problems and on political problems, I would say it's more like talking to Wikipedia than it is like asking an authority. But it sometimes could give you some interesting insights, and maybe the back and forth could be useful to you. Other questions?
Do you, so you're an engineer, and do you ever use vibe coding in production level software? And I guess what are some of the risks? And if you do, how do you prompt it effectively so it doesn't give you like 1,000 lines of code to then QA?
I don't really vibe code at work, but I do use LLMs for coding at work. And the difference is I put in place a large number of quality gates to make sure that only high quality code is going to production. And so in a production context, it's always really important to have review of the code. In the case of LLM generated code, I think that should be reviewed by another LLM. I think it should be reviewed by the author. So unlike Andrew Karpathy, unlike when I'm vibe coding, if an LLM wrote some code for me at work, I would look at every single line of code that it wrote. And then another human is going to review it. And then it's going to have to pass through the battery of automated tests that any other piece of code has to go through in production. So it's fun to say I vibe coded in production, but the truth is that never actually happened. Yes, Charlie.
I'm curious more about the future of using AI in coding. I was talking with one of my friends, who's a software engineer, and he was explaining to me that one of the key limitations is we talk to the AI LLMs in English, which is an unprecise language. And computers work in precise code with precise languages, whereas coders, when software engineers, when you talk to the computers, you're writing code in precise language. So you're just adding a barrier between that is an unprecise language. Does that make sense? Where it's basically adding a hurdle that you'll have to clear. And I'm wondering if that's something that will impact the future of LLMs being heavily used in code beyond vibe coding.
I guess I'm not sure I agree with the premise that natural language is imprecise. In some ways, if you imagine there's in software development, there's someone called a product manager, right, who specifies and then maybe a designer too. Those people are specifying what the software is going to do. And then you have the engineer who actually implements that into code. But there is a one-to-one correspondence between the way the feature was designed and the way the feature was specified and the way that it should be implemented. So it would be possible to say whether or not the code actually fulfills those criteria. And I think that it is possible to specify in natural language what you want with precision. And part of that is, there's a movement in software development called Agile. It's old hat now, but it's way over here on the hype cycle. But the idea was that you didn't just say, okay, here's what I want from on high. You went back and forth with the coder, and eventually, through that dialogue, you got to what it was that you actually wanted. And I think you can do the same exchange with an LLM. All right, I think I'm out of time, so thank you very much.